Hi folks, welcome to the Financial Argument. You may have heard friends and families expressing concern over the increase in food prices lately. Of course, you and I have been aware this was coming for a while now. But those who are paying attention and preparing accordingly are in the minority. However, the general public is now noticing their grocery bill has become steeper compared to the same time last year. Many Americans expect food costs to gradually return to normal as the health crisis tapers off. However, this assumption is incorrect. This is not just my opinion, but experts are stating this across the board. Let's look at why. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, food prices rose by 3.9% in 2020, which is more than double the rate it rose in 2019. The cost of food purchased for consumption at home also rose by 3.9%. We're looking at the most significant increase in 1 year since 2011. Some companies have even made it known they're raising their prices in 2021, including General Mills, Kraft Heinz, ConAgra, and Coca-Cola. The Bloomberg Commodity Spot Index, which maintains data for 23 raw materials, shows that food prices are at the highest level they've been in the last 10 years. According to Nielsen IQ data, in the 13 weeks leading up to the 24th of April, the cost of seafood went up by 18.7%. Fruits such as strawberries, citrus, and apples are up a whopping 11.3% so far this year. Prices for donuts and rolls increased by 7.5%. Several factors are contributing to the rising food prices. Some were present before the health crisis began, while others added to them, creating a perfect storm of problems that's rippling through the supply chain, disrupting the industry, and passing the costs on to you and your families. Vice President of Research and Industry Narrative at the Consumer Brands Association, Katie Dennis, explained in a blog post last week a few reasons why prices are going up. With produce prices up 4.2% this March compared to March of 2020, we haven't seen this rate of increase in 10 years since 2011. As mentioned before, she writes that prices for raw commodities have increased, notably sugar, grains, and oil. Additionally, the price of packaging has risen with the increased cost of aluminum, cardboard, and plastic wrap. Why? USD estimates project that staple crops like soybeans and wheat will increase by at least 5% this year. You can expect bread, cereal, and pasta to cost you more in the coming months. Dennis also mentions increased labor costs as wages in food manufacturing were 3.4% greater in Q3 of 2020 compared to Q3 of 2019. Many employers temporarily increased pay or offered bonuses to their employees. Not to mention the food industry is also competing with unemployment compensation. To incentivize more people to apply for their positions, retailers may need to increase salaries, which will mean an increase in prices. Lastly, Dennis mentions the gas price increases, which has made transportation more expensive. We saw the disaster occurring with the Colonial Pipeline over the last couple of weeks, which just adds fuel to the fire. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy.com, discussed how the health crisis dropped the demand for gas, leading to production and labor cuts. Compared to before the pandemic, there are about half as many active oil rigs in the country. The founder of SupermarketGuru.com, Phil Lempert, stated, "I think food prices are going to continue to increase for probably a good year, year and a half. I discussed the global container crisis in a previous video. I won't get into that here, but I will leave the link in the description if you haven't seen it already. This is one of the factors contributing to the problems in the global food supply chain. Next is changing weather patterns creating extreme conditions which affected crop production and recently hit the Midwest. Remember, our agricultural industry also relies heavily on migrants from Central America who live in crowded conditions and do not have the luxury of socially isolating themselves. Next, we have millions of Americans who do not wish to return to work out of health concerns due to the crisis or prefer to collect unemployment benefits rather than return to low-paying jobs. With the government paying people to stay home, it makes it more difficult for smaller businesses. Joe Biden addressed this concern on May 10th, stating those who are offered a suitable job must take the job or lose their unemployment benefits. Employees reluctant to return to work contribute to understaffed restaurants and stores and are one of the causes behind stores changing their hours. Have you noticed your local grocery stores and pharmacies closing earlier or no longer operating 24/7? I mentioned in an earlier video how some grocery stores are completely closing their doors. Well, I'm sure it's obvious to you that this is no coincidence. It's all part of the chain effect. The managing director of Strategic Resource Group, Bert Flickinger, explained why many retail stores are cutting their hours. An increase in shoplifting over the last year, a shortage of employees willing to take retail jobs due to the health crisis, as well as those who would rather stay home and collect unemployment benefits, are several reasons that factor into why they are cutting hours. Many people are asking to be scheduled for the day shift rather than at night due to the increase in shoplifting. Not to mention, many customers are opting to pick up their food or have it delivered. Flickinger said the business went from 95% to 97% shopping in-store to about 60 to 65%. They feel they can reasonably handle all the customer demand over the course of 17 or 18 hours versus 24 hours. Small businesses are competing with unemployment compensation. Many employers are having difficulty hiring workers to fill their open positions. Shoplifting is on the rise. Food and grocery delivery is becoming more popular. So folks, don't expect your grocery bill to go back to normal soon, as this has slowly become the new normal. Bloomberg intelligence analyst Jennifer Bartashush said inflation expectations for 2021 are much higher than they've been in recent years. The high demand as a result of the health crisis means fewer discounts at the grocery stores. The CEO of Albertsons, which also operates Vons and Safeway, Vivek Sankaran, said, "When there's a shortage in supply, it makes no sense to promote aggressively. That's why you see inflation in some categories. It just makes no sense to play with price at this point." Albertsons operates more than 2,200 grocery stores across the USA, which include Vons and Safeway. Recently stated that pork, pancake mix, and packaging costs are major areas where they see increasing prices. Commodity and labor costs have got upward pressure on them right now, he said. Prices remain stable, however, could go up later this year. TGI Fridays is seeing their pork prices going up as well. There's been some supply chain issues that we're now paying for, stated CEO Ray Blanchette. A combination of factors led to strained production and increased costs, which means the price is passed on to the consumer. Although the health crisis is finally tapering off, we will see the effects for a long time, folks. We have people sitting on unemployment who don't want to work. There's talk of more stimulus checks. We have a real estate market bubble, artificially inflated stock prices, a container crisis that will take time to stabilize. Gas prices were going up prior to the Colonial Pipeline disaster. However, we'll leave that discussion for another video. So what's the solution? Trillions of dollars have been pumped into the economy, and we aren't seeing the recovery we need. The money they printed to send out checks to stimulate the economy? It looks like that party's over. The $1,400 checks Biden sent out helped contribute to a 10.7% increase for March in consumer spending for retail sales, but it fell flat after April. With more than 10 million Americans on unemployment and consumer prices at the highest since 2008, the economy is in dire straits, and we haven't seen the worst of it yet. The data makes it clear that the rising food prices are occurring all over the world, not just in the USA, inevitably triggering a global food crisis. I can't help but think it's deliberate. I'm sure you're all feeling the rising food prices, but as the experts have warned, we can expect this to continue for at least another year or year and a half. But who can guarantee that it won't get worse? Maybe much worse by this time next year. If food prices are like this now, isn't it obvious they'll only get worse in this dark economic climate? I'm having a difficult time seeing the silver lining in all this. The indifference of those who are running this country makes me wonder and worry if this is manufactured and there's a greater plan behind it. You know what can happen when people have no access to food? I've told you this over and over again. What happens when a father sees his children going hungry? Even a man who hasn't so much as received a traffic ticket in his life. What is he capable of? What would a mother do for her children? This is no laughing matter or something to file away in the back of your mind. Take this very seriously and continue your preparations. Remember the most important rule: keep your preparations under wraps and your lips sealed. In April of 2021, the FAO Food Price Index averaged 28.4 points, or 30.8% above last year's, for a total of 120.9 points, causing prices for sugar, oil, meat, dairy, and cereal to sharply increase. It's been steadily rising for the past year, and the last time it was this high was March 2014. Simply put, the billions of people who lack access to food due to this Great Depression will turn to migration. So what will happen next? Perhaps the tight border closures and controls we've seen in all countries due to the health crisis in the last few years could be a rehearsal of something planned for the future. Think about it. And lastly, this is not financial advice, but investing in real money, like gold and silver, is the wisest course. You know what to do. If you've been preparing, continue to do so, even if it seems excessive or unnecessary to you. When the hard time comes, Uncle Sam won't be taking care of you. God bless you all.